And hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Guys, the British media and the political establishment are living in a different reality. It's pretty damn clear to see. I have to start today's forensic audit with a heavy heart, because we are dealing with a profoundly sensitive matter, a matter of life and death on the streets of the United Kingdom. We aren't just looking at a policy disagreement or a statistical anomaly. We are looking at the total breakdown of the high-trust society that once made this country the envy of the world. The muck heap of British politics has finally reached a point where it can no longer be ignored, no matter how much the clueless nitwits in the mainstream media try to spray it with the perfume of political correctness. What happened in Belfast is a visceral, horrifying proof of a systemic shambles. While you and I see a savage act that threatens the very fabric of our communities, the BBC and the Westminster bubble see a PR problem that needs to be managed with sanitized language and two-tier reporting. This is the grain of sand that describes the entire beach of our national crisis. We are being gaslit by a management class that would rather you be in danger than they be called insensitive. It is a terminal glitch in the matrix of British governance. Let's look at the forensic breakdown of how the establishment handles a horror like this. On one hand, you have the BBC, the taxpayer-funded mouthpiece of the Westminster bubble. Their headline read, "Man taken to hospital with serious injuries after stabbing." On the other hand, you have Rupert Lowe, who provides the pub logic that the silent majority is starving for. He didn't mince words. He called it out for what it was. It was an attempted beheading. Be honest for once. Let's decode that for a second. Why does the BBC use terms like serious injuries? Because serious injuries could mean anything from a broken leg to a deep cut. It is a linguistic filter designed to prevent the British people from feeling the visceral outrage that an attempted beheading naturally provokes. It is a form of bureaucratic anesthesia. They are trying to numb you to the reality of what is happening on your streets. Lowe went further, identifying that a Somalian has been arrested following the attempted beheading. This is the point where the petty bureaucrats start glitching out. They don't want you to know the nationality. They don't want you to know the immigration status. Why? Because as soon as those facts are on the table, the entire 30-year project of unvetted mass immigration is exposed as a catastrophic failure. Lowe has issued a call for total transparency.
I now call for the police with full transparency to disclose the ethnicity and immigration status of the person who perpetrated the attack.
Identifying that the safety of the British taxpayer is being sacrificed at the altar of a human rights industry run by people like Keir Starmer and Lord Hermer, men who have made a living ensuring the legal complexities of the ECHR protect the perpetrator rather than the victim. Type truth in the comments right now if you are sick of the BBC's gaslighting. Do we deserve the forensic truth, or should the state be allowed to sanitize attempted beheadings to protect their narrative? I'm reading every single comment. To understand why a state-funded broadcaster would try to hide an attempted beheading behind the phrase serious injuries, we have to look at the hidden history of the last 30 years of controlled decline. This isn't an accident, it's a design. This is a symptom of a social contract that has been systematically shredded by a management class that views the British people as a problem to be managed. It started with the Maastricht Treaty in the early 90s, but the real rot set in with Tony Blair's constitutional reforms and the 1998 Human Rights Act. This act was the foundation of the human rights industry that Rupert Lowe is now rightly attacking. It moved the power from British common sense and into the hands of a professional legal class who prioritize international treaties over local safety. The ECHR became a shield for the radical. We have created a bureaucratic loop where even the most dangerous individuals can stay in the country because of legal complexities. The management of this country has essentially fired the original owners, the British people. They have replaced the high-trust society with a low-trust vetocracy. Think about the Somalia connection Lowe mentions. Why do we have people from high-risk, failed states on our streets when we have no way of vetting their backgrounds or their intentions? The answer is that the clueless nitwits in Westminster have signed us up to international mandate and net zero-style social engineering that prioritizes global equity over the safety of a grandmother in Wigan or a worker in Kent. For 30 years, they have been liquidating the British identity to pay for this utopian experiment. They have built an architecture of deceit where the truth is considered extreme and savage acts are described as incidents. They don't want you to know the why, because the why leads directly back to their own signatures on treaties that have stripped our borders of their meaning and our streets of their safety.
This brings us to the two-tier system that is currently tearing the country apart. Compare how the system treats the Somalian perpetrator of an attempted beheading with how it treats a law-abiding patriot. If a small business owner in Great Yarmouth or a pensioner in Blackpool makes a politically incorrect comment on Facebook, the police are at their door in hours. The suffocating weight of the taxman is always there, ready to crush the breath out of the British entrepreneur for a minor administrative error. That is Tier 1. The people who pay the bills, follow the rules, and are treated with constant suspicion and hostility by their own government. Now look at Tier 2, the radicals and the unvetted. When a savage act occurs in Belfast, the police and the BBC suddenly become deceitful. They hide the identity, they hide the nationality, and they hide the religion. They provide the perpetrator with human rights lawyers, often funded by you, the taxpayer, to ensure they can stay in the country indefinitely. Rupert Lowe mentions the tragic death of Henry Novak. That is another name the establishment would rather you forget.
We can quite clearly see with the recent tragic death of Henry Novak, we can see two-tier policing, and now I call for total transparency. If you have transparency, you have truth, and from truth you can actually start to deal with the issues that are causing the problem. Until we have that, I'm afraid we are going to continue to, all of us, suffer from increasing distrust, an increasing feeling of a lack of safety, and that is not going to be good for all of us. We want our high-trust society back.
Highlights the two-tier reality where the safety of the patriot is a secondary concern. Why does the system bully the patriot while ignoring the radical? Because the patriot wants the old social contract back. The radical, however, serves as a justification for more management, more policing of speech, and more human rights laws. The Westminster bubble is more afraid of a British person standing up for their heritage than they are of an attempted beheading on a high street. It is a disgusting inversion of justice that signals the liquidation of our national soul. Let me know in the comments, have you felt the sting of this two-tier system? Have you seen the authorities act more aggressively towards wrongthink than towards actual savagery? I read every single comment. So, what is the so what for the viewer at home? The fallout of this sensitive matter is that your life is being made smaller, poorer, and more dangerous. This isn't just a news story in Belfast, it's a chain reaction that is destroying the high street and the very concept of community. When the BBC sanitizes an attempted beheading, they are destroying trust, and when trust dies, the economy follows. A high-trust society is an efficient society, but who wants to invest in a high street in Wigan or Kent when they don't feel safe? Who wants to run a small business when the state won't even be honest about the people walking past your shop window? The death of the high street isn't just about Amazon, it's about the lack of safety that Rupert Lowe correctly identifies. Think about your private pension or your house value. If the liquidation of British identity continues, if we continue to import the world's problems without any regard for our own people, then the value of everything you have worked for is at risk. Property rights only matter in a society with the rule of law, but we are moving towards a two-tier law where the rules only apply to the people the government can easily bully. The threat is local and it is urgent. In towns like Great Yarmouth, the tourism industry is being hollowed out. In Kent, the social fabric is being stretched to the breaking point. The management is prioritising the human rights industry over the safe streets of the silent majority. If we continue to let clueless nitwits run the country based on the scripts of Lord Hermer and Keir Starmer, we are looking at the total liquidation of the British way of life. They want you to accept serious injuries as the new normal. They want you to ignore the Somali connection. They want you to stay quiet while they fire the original owners of this nation. The common sense antidote is exactly what Rupert Lowe and Restore Britain are proposing. We need to stop the waffle and start the forensic audit of our borders. Lowe's statement was a clarion call. Quote, a Restore Britain government would end all immigration from Somalia, review all existing visas, and deport all Somalians who should not be in Britain. Enough. That is pub logic in action. It is a plan based on the reality of the streets, not the gaslighting of the television studios. We need real people, the business owners, the mothers, the workers, who understand that a country without a border isn't a country at all. We need to sack the professional politicians and the petty bureaucrats who have spent 30 years hollowing us out. We want our high-trust society back, we want our safety back, and we aren't going to get it back by being deceitful. We need honesty, we need truth, we need a government that puts the British taxpayer first, second, and third. Watch what the hands are doing, not what the mouth is saying. If the BBC is lying to you about what happened in Belfast, it's because the truth is a death sentence for their globalist project. If you want the forensic truth the mainstream media is trying to censor, hit that subscribe button right now. Share this with one person who needs to wake up before the liquidation is complete. The muck heap has been exposed, now let's clear it away. Watch the hands, folks. Always watch the hands. I'll see you in the next one.